What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Hangover. I'm Daniel, alongside with me as always, Shannon White. Shannon, how was your weekend, my man?
Oh, I had a good weekend, and it seems like it flies by, but yeah, it was a real good weekend, and uh, just getting a little bit of a late start tonight, and but uh, hopefully, the we'll have a little bit of community participation tonight during the dead season.
100%. As the title says, surviving the NFL dead season. That is exactly where we are right now. Between now and training camp starts, it's good, obviously, for the team. Then if there isn't any news, because the only news that usually comes out about this time is bad news.
Yep.
So unless there's a trade, which I think everybody's kind of hoping that maybe something might happen, you know, the longer we go without a trade happening at the wide receiver position, the more unlikely I think it's going to happen. Do you think the same way?
Yeah, I mean, Khan's always looking for a good deal. He's the con artist. He's willing and dealing, but unless it's something that's really going to benefit the Steelers, there's rumors that there's people out there willing to pay these $30 million a year for one of these top guys if they hit the market. I don't think the Steelers are one of those teams. I really don't. So, I mean, I would expect that if somebody hits the market that's a proven quality wide receiver too, they might be interested to take a look. But I don't think they're going to bring in anybody capable of being a wide receiver one because I think they're counting on Pickens to do that.
I think so too. I had read another article somewhere, I can't remember where, but they were saying that they thought that George Pickens was closer to a wide receiver two than he is a wide receiver one. And yeah, I think that is. I don't think it's unfair to say that right now because we really haven't seen production of a wide receiver one for a long period of time. But I think there's some context that goes behind it, and I think the context is Matt Canada and the any options that he had at quarterback for the last couple of years. Now, I think this year is going to be a good chance for us to see what he really is and his, if he can achieve his potential. It's going to be a big year for him after this year. I believe he's going to be trying to get a contract extension. So I think we might see a huge year from George Pickens. I think he's going to uh, demand that kind of attention. What do you think we're going to see from George this year?
Well, I always say everybody's unproven until they get a chance to prove it.
Mm-hmm.
And if they want to say he's a wide receiver two, more so than a wide receiver one last year, I'd agree with that. I disagree with it this year. I think we've seen the work ethic. We've seen the working out with the route god this offseason and with teammates and catching a lot of passes and really focusing on the finer points. Uh, we've always said that the talent and athletic ability is there for sure. It's going to come down to maturity and work ethic. And I think we're starting to see it. So I think he's a true breakout candidate with an, a true facsimile of a offensive coordinator this year. And that's going to bring out a lot of the abilities of these two new quarterbacks. Well, three new quarterbacks. We can't forget Allen. And so I think that everybody was handcuffed last year in Canada's offense. So I'm expecting we're going to see not just Pickens breakout, but a lot of guys. Freiermuth is a great candidate. We know that Harris and Warren behind the much stronger and improved offensive line. We're going to see a lot of breakout candidates this year, I believe. But in my opinion, one of the biggest reasons is Matt Canada is no more.
That's true. Matt Canada being gone, I think is going to be a huge component for this offense, for him to be moving forward in the right direction. I think Russell Wilson had made the statement that every rep feels like a playoff rep. And I think that the reason why is I think that this team is engaged into this new offense.
Oh, yeah.
They're probably excited for the first time in a while about the possibility of what they can do. But another player that I just found this interesting. So CBS put out a list of the top 20 running backs in the NFL. Number 20 was Jalen Warren from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Where do you think Najee Harris fell?
I'll say 13.
He wasn't on the list.
He didn't even make the list at all.
He didn't make the list. Jalen Warren hit 20, and Najee did not make the list.
Well, I think it's great. I like hungry guys.
Yeah, me too.
I like guys that have a chip on their shoulder. They're pissed off, and they want to come in a contract year. That's what it is for Harris. And he's wanting to come out and prove that he's been held back by bad offensive line, bad OC, bad quarterback play, whatever you want to blame it on. He wants to show that he was held back, and he's much better than give it credit for. And if he didn't even hit the top 20, I know he's pissed.
Oh, yeah, I think so too. I find this very disrespectful to him,
Definitely.
to be honest. There's a lot of context to his running. Now, I get it. If you look at the stats and you look at the yards per average, I think he's under 4 yards per average. And it looks bad. But you also have to look at the fact that he's also being hit on average at 0.9 yards.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
he doesn't have the luxury of hasn't had the luxury of a good line for the majority of the season. I think that his line has gelled together the last couple of years at the later part of the seasons, but they really struggled early on, which reflected in Najee's play. And I think that even the year before, he was dealing with a little bit more injuries and stuff like that. So with that being said, I thought that I find it very disrespectful that he wasn't on the list. I would still put Najee Harris before Jalen Warren. Where would you list those two today?
I can see Warren being a little higher than 20. I'd have to see the list and see who you could drop or who could go up. I haven't seen the list, but yeah, I would definitely think Harris would be higher on the list because we've seen Warren get reps at parts of the game early, as I would say with the first team, and Warren struggled in those opportunities. Whereas, the defense knew the Steelers were going to run, and instead of Harris breaking, Harris and Warren had the most broken tackles of any duo in the NFL last year.
Mm-hmm.
Harris had his first season averaging over 4 yards a carry, and I think it was 4.1 if I ain't mistaken. It was just a little over 4, but it was the first time he's hit 4. But he also had a little bit better run blocking last year. And especially late in the season when they actually had the threat of a passing game, that opened up, backed off the stack boxes and backed off the defenders and give Harris and Warren both more room. So I don't think we've seen the best of either guy yet. And I think we're going to. But I think Harris was terribly underutilized in the passing game. So was Warren. Warren is a very good receiver and is really effective after the catch. He completed a lot of third down plays last year where he caught the ball short of the sticks and then, made some kind of great move or flew through the air or whatever to get that first down. So I think this year you're going to see Harris and Warren catch a lot more passes. So I think they'll move up that list wherever they're at right now after this coming season in Arthur Smith's offense.
Yeah, 100%. I think they definitely will as well. So I'll give you a couple of key players that they have in this list. The honorable mentions were Alvin Kamara, James Cook, David Montgomery, Najee Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, and Rashad White. Before Jalen Warren is Isaiah Pacheco. They have DeAndre Swift, Devon Achane. He did well. James Conner, number 16. James, I think James is a good back. I think I might put Najee a little bit higher than James Conner. A lot of what James did, I think he had some good stuff, but a lot of his stuff was like short goal line, type of thing.
Yeah.
And so
I agree. I think Harris. I think Harris is a a better running back at this point in their career than James Conner, who's starting to get some wear and tear. They're both similar type runners that they're not breakaway guys. They take a lot of big hits. So I think they're gonna wear down a little faster because of that. Connor's had to overcome cancer. He's had to overcome numerous injuries, and I admire the heck out of James Conner. But I do think that I would put Harris a little above him.
Yeah, no, I agree. 15 is Tony Pollard. Then 14, Kenryn Williams from the Rams. Then Kenneth Walker from Seattle. Raheem Morissette. Travis Etienne. Aaron Jones from the Vikings. Josh Jacobs. Jahmyr Gibbs for the Lions. Saquon Barkley at 7. Breece Hall at 6. Nick Chubb at 5. 4 is Jonathan Taylor. Bijan Robinson at 3. I don't know if I agree with this one anymore, but number 2 is Derrick Henry from the Ravens. You agree with him at number 2?
I agree with you. I think that's a lot of reputation.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm taking nothing away from what a great player he's been. But last year with the Titans, we started to see some, wear and tear, mileage piling up. His odometer is getting high.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe he's got to tune up this offseason and he's going to come out for the Ravens and, be rejuvenated and run more like he done in the past. But I don't know. I think that's being number 2. That's reputation alone right now.
I agree with that. Christian McCaffrey, number 1, obviously, course, to top it out. And I agree with that one. Yeah. I don't agree where Derek is, Henry. I do think he's probably top 10, but probably in the higher end of the top 10, in my opinion. And you can look at his contract. He's getting paid about $8 million a year right now. That's, around where I would have thought, somebody around 8 or 9, 10 would be paid for that position. So given this information or given this, how they look at the NFL, and this is just CBS, obviously it's not everybody, but do you see Najee still, I guess if this is the outlook, that $6.8 million, is that still too much for Khan, or is it, what do you think about that with comparison to what we're seeing as far as how other analysts are showing where Najee's at, where they think he's at?
My whole thing is, when we're ranking players, I would like to know where a lot of those guys would have been ranked if they'd have played behind the same line as Najee Harris. Mm-hmm. If they'd have played in the same offense as Najee Harris, with the same quarterback as Najee Harris, I don't think they would be ranked above Najee Harris. Again, we have to say, where does he rank? Is he the perfect running back for Pittsburgh and what they're trying to do? And some of them guys would not be a good fit at all, and behind the lines that Harris has had to deal with. That, football's the ultimate team sport. And a lot of times it's the line in front of you that makes you look a lot better than maybe you actually are. Mm-hmm. And that applies to the quarterback, running backs, wide receivers. Because if the line can't block and the quarterback can't throw, you're a wide receiver, you're just out of luck. So I think that Harris is definitely getting a little bit of disrespect. But the running back position in general is getting disrespected now because there's so many guys that are playing in kind of pro-style offenses that can come in from college and immediately, contribute and give you starting minutes at a very cheap price. And with the way quarterback salaries are going up, and wide receiver salaries and offensive tackle, and all these guys, they're got to save money somewhere, and they're trying to do it at running back. My thing is Harris, I think, is going to be paid $6.5, $7 million a year. I think it's about where he should be, depending on how he does this year. And I think that's part of the things that Omar Khan, they're kind of doing a wait and see. We're all expecting a big year as the offensive line gels and comes together. I think we're all expecting a big year for the running game. But until we see it, and we know that the effectiveness of these quarterbacks is going to affect the running game. Because nobody in the NFL in a long time can just say, we're running the ball first, second, and third downs, and you stop us. Now, that used to happen, but you can't do that anymore. You have to have the ability to be a threat through the air. There has to be a passing attack to have an effective rushing attack, and vice versa. And the Steelers just didn't have it. And I don't know if I've seen as many stacked boxes that I've seen the Steelers face over the last couple of years. So I don't think we're going to see that this year. But I think we're going to have a better offensive line and a better quarterback. But just same thing with Cam Hayward. Prove it. Go out, play this final year, get your $22 million, show what you still have, and then the Steelers can, go to the negotiating table. But if they overpay him now and all that guaranteed money, they're going to be stuck. And with Najee Harris, I think that they're really wanting to take a wait and see approach.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I do think that it's a little bit of a gamble. I mean, under $7 million wasn't a lot of money to me for next season as well. Thinking that I would assume the salary cap is going to expand again. I understand that they're probably going to have to sign Jalen Warren as well. And maybe they're seeing, both of those contracts as being roughly about the same. And then, now you're paying X amount to one position, and it's not a position you probably should be paying X amount to.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So there might be some of that into play here, especially when they mention that it is a business decision. So I do think that there is an opportunity for Najee to sign again for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I do think that there's a possibility that he outperforms himself, or he performs himself out of a contract here in Pittsburgh. That he does so well, does so good that somebody's going to offer him $10-11 million. And I don't know if the Steelers are going to be that team. And so, especially when you have a Jalen Warren that they're going to have to re-sign, and where he came out as an undrafted rookie. So I'm still iffy on it, whether or not he's going to end up being a Steeler. If I was a betting man and had a bet today, I would say Najee would not be a member of the Steelers in 2025. What would you bet at? Or would you bet one way or the other?
I'm kind of not willing to bet yet. I really want to see what he could do this year in these circumstances. I hope that he puts the Steelers in a terrible position, because if he comes out and he has a 1,400-yard, 1,500-yard season, even if it's, rushing and receiving stats, but he's very effective, scores touchdowns, and the Steelers are very effective on offense, I just don't see teams throwing money at him. The reason why is because everybody talks about, if you listen to any, like the Bengals cast, the Ravens cast, Browns, they all talk about his lack of breakaway speed, his lack of speed. Now, last year, I think he had in the top 3 most rushes of over 15 yards, maybe it was, or maybe over 20. Now, he didn't have the long ones. Warren had a couple of long ones, but both of them had some longer runs. But Harris, he kind of tops out about 20 yards and then they catch him. And usually it's because he's stiff arming and dragging guys, but he can't get those longer runs. Chunk plays. I like it. But I don't know if he's that valued around the league, even if he produces 1,400 yards this year for the Steelers. So in my opinion, it's kind of worth the gamble.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is. We'll see where it lands. But right now, we're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere, especially on the YouTube side, which is going to be a few seconds. On the audio side, we have a few words from our sponsors. Don't go anywhere. And we're back. Welcome back, everybody, to the Steelers Hangover. Those that are watching this in the live chat, get your questions ready, because we're going to be taking questions from you guys for the next segment or so. But before we get into it, I want to remind you guys of the SteelCurtainNetwork.com, the one-stop shop for Pittsburgh Steelers news and coverage, where you can find daily articles every single day, multiple articles every single day, breaking news stuff and stuff from our source. So go check that out. And while you're there, you can also check out the audios only side where you can see my recent podcast that came out this past Friday called State of the Steelers on the Steel Curtain Network audio side only. Go check that out. So, Shannon, on the defensive side, before we get all these questions coming in, uh, there's been a lot of moves. The Steelers have picked up a couple of players here or there, Cam Sutton most recently. Where do you think is the biggest weakness on the defensive side still?
For me, it's still defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
I guess Montravius Adams is a guy who can give you quality minutes as a backup. I do not like him when he has to start or give extended minutes. That being said, you got Alulu, who could hopefully this year actually play a little bit and give you a more of an old school nose tackle. And then you could have Hayward or Keanu Benton slide in there to give you a little bit of a pass rush, collapse the pocket. I'd still like to have one more defensive lineman. I'm happy. Before, I was kind of in the Justin Simmons camp that if the price went down and it was cheap enough, let's bring him in. And I just don't see him playing for what the Steelers are capable of paying him right now. But if he was, let's say he thinks the Steelers are, a true contender, he might want to do that. But I think getting Cam Sutton back kind of lessened the need for Simmons because Sutton, as we know, can play the slot. He can give you a little bit at outside corner still. And he played some deep safety his last year at Pittsburgh, and he was very effective. If I remember, he had 2 interceptions from the deep safety spot. And because he's very smart. Tomlin says he's one of the smartest guys he's ever had. So that allowed Mika he blitzed some, he'd come up and would play the slot, pick up a tight end, and then Sutton would drop back. Because Sutton doesn't do as well with tight ends. He's not quite sturdy enough. But I think Sutton was a good pickup, depending on the legal issues and whether he misses any time with suspension. But, yeah, I guess for me, it's still defensive line.
Got you. And for me, I do see the concern there. I think that early on, we're probably going to see some issues with the middle linebacker position just because there's a lot of new pieces there. But I think by the mid-season or so, that's going to be the strength. I do think that the defensive line could be a strength early on, but I am concerned about the longevity of the position, given the age of some of the more important players, such as Cam Hayward. Larry Ogunjobi also finds himself on the injury report quite often.
Yeah.
And so Keanu Benton is a guy who's, in my opinion, could be a Stephon Tuitt type. He's on the rise. He's looked like he lost a little bit of weight. But still kind of very physical, looks very strong still. And, I do think that over time that might be an issue. We're going to have to see the depth kind of come up, right? Loudermilk is going to be a guy that's going to have to, it's going to be a big preseason for him because if he don't step up, I don't think he's going to make the team. I thought, go ahead.
He doesn't offer anything on special teams. So you got Logan Lee, who's going to be battling for a depth position, or you don't know if they would try to get him on the practice squad. But let's say he's battling for, defensive line number 5 or whatever. He can play special teams, and he can give you that, whereas Loudermilk really doesn't. I think he plays on the kick block, trying to block field goals the other day. I think that's it. And DeMarvin Leal, again, I think he's a 4-3 lineman. He's the same size as he was last year based on appearance. Maybe he is stronger. Because, a lot of times you can get functional strength, and not really put on that much weight. But he's going to have to show it in the preseason. And our knowledgeable community pointed out, I said Alulu, but I did mean Fahoku. So thank y'all for pointing that out.
Yeah, when you said it, I didn't want to interrupt you while you were
Yes, yes.
mid talk, but yeah, I agree, and if Loudermilk can play against those offensive linemen like he's been going up against those dummies in training camp, he's going to be good.
Yes.
There was a clip of him just going through them like crazy, and I'm like, man, that guy looks like he's moving fast. I just don't know if he can do it during when it counts, but we'll see. Hopefully he does. Um, but yeah, if anybody has any questions or comments, let us know. Jerry Cherryband says or asks, can Najee kill it this year like D. Henry? What do you think? Do you think Najee's going to have a Derrick Henry like season?
Except for the long runs. I mean, Henry just has a gear that I think Henry maybe he was clocked at 4.5 when he was coming out of Alabama. I just think that Harris doesn't have that long breakaway speed, and so that's the main difference in the two. I think they run similar. I think they have similar power at times, stiff arm, everything. But Henry could actually pull away from the linebackers, whereas Harris gets caught.
Yeah, I think that's true about the top speed there. Najee looks like he lost some weight. Looks a little bit quicker, so we'll see if that top speed increases. But you know, I never really, when I've watched Najee, his body type and his size screams out that he should play like, Derrick Henry, but it doesn't really look like Derrick Henry style of play when I'm watching Najee Harris. And so I don't know if he's going to have a year like him, but I do think he's going to end up having a productive year. I do see him having another 1,000-yard year. And if, everything goes well, I think him and Jalen Warren, given the style of Arthur Smith's offense and the offensive line, hopefully progressing in the right direction, they might both have 1,000-yard rushing years. But yeah, it's quite possible. But I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we got a couple of questions. One said, "How much lighter is Najee this year?" Now, if you see the pictures, the images to me, I thought 10 pounds, or maybe a tad more, but he said he lost 7 pounds. So, I'm going to believe him, but man, he lost 7 pounds, I guess, in all the right places because he, as you said, he really has slimmed down.
Yeah, I thought he lost somewhere around 10 to 12 pounds.
I did definitely. Yeah.
When I saw a picture of him at first, I didn't recognize him. I was like, oh, that is Najee.
Yeah.
He looks
yeah.
really, really thin. Not Tua thin. Have you seen Tua? Tua Tagovailoa?
Oh.
Look him up when you get a chance.
No, I don't think I've seen him.
Dude, look him up when you get a chance. You won't recognize the kid. He looks like a kid. He's like 160 pounds. It is weird. He looks super skinny. Dennis comes in. Yeah, it's bad. And Dennis comes in. What percentage of snaps do you think Nick Herbig plays this year? I'm thinking 25% at least.
It's hard to take Watt and Highsmith off the field. I mean, I'm sure if I was a coach, if I was Austin, I'd be like, no, you need to stay out there. But you've got both of those guys, balls to the wall, hair on fire. They give 110% every play. And those guys wear down. And it's a long season, especially if you're wanting to play some postseason ball. And we need these guys healthy. So I think that Herbig should be getting a little more than 25%. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm thinking more like 40% because at the end of the day, I think he's going to be the third guy, right? And there's going to be heavy rotation between those three outside linebackers. And that third guy, has to be able to, be able to move from both sides and also be out there because they also do 3 linebacker sets every now and then. Last year, there was a couple of times where we saw TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, and Nick Herbig out there at the same time. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see some more of that type of those type of plays. But yeah, I think TJ Watt plays somewhere around 70-something% of the snaps most of the time. Mm-hmm. Alex Highsmith is, I think, a little bit higher than that. So there's a significant amount of snaps that are available for him to play. And
Well, don't
I'm
you think,
expecting.
if I ain't mistaken, Nick Herbig took reps on both sides last year.
Mhm, I
So
think
he
so.
could easily hit 40.
Yeah, easily. I don't know if they're going to go with a fourth outside linebacker, and if they do, I don't think that fourth outside linebacker is going to get much reps at all unless there's some sort of injury, obviously. But
Well, I think that would be a mistake. I've said before, I like Jeremiah Moon
mhm,
to get that outside or the edge number 4.
mhm,
And one of the reasons why is he is a big bodied outside linebacker. Legit 6'5" and 248. He's Bud Dupree almost.
mm,
And he sets a good edge and he's strong. You know, the long arms. He's I think that you should use him uh early and often, especially on some early downs. If he's been let's say it's an extended series and the defense has been caught out there, let him come in. And if they're having a little bit of issue with the rushing game or the rushing attack for the opponent, let him come in there and set that edge. Give Highsmith, or I figure he'll be on, I think he plays predominantly the right side. So
mhm.
give him a Highsmith a break and then swing Moon in there and then, let him set that edge. But now for the pass rush, you want Herbie out there as much as possible.
Yeah, no, I agree. How many linebackers inside and outside do you see the Steelers carrying this year?
Well, they a lot of times they'll go into the season with 4 outside guys
Mhm,
and maybe keep an extra fifth guy on the interior, because in the past a lot of times it's been a hybrid, Marcus Allen or uh, somebody of that nature who can play a little safety too.
mhm.
This year, I don't know if they would actually do that because they've got Deshaun Elliott. You've got Peyton Wilson, who could might be the dime linebacker, right off the bat here as a rookie. So, but I would say probably 5 inside and 4 outside.
Yeah, yeah, I see that too. I see 5 inside, 4 outside. If they keep 4 in the outside, I still think that they're keeping Mark Robinson on this team. Cole Holcomb sounds like he's going to be returning, and I think you
That's
have.
exciting.
Yeah,
I'm so
exactly.
happy for him because when that happened, I thought, think about it. It was in the middle of the year and it was nasty. They wouldn't
Mhm.
even show it on TV, but you could see it on the internet. And I thought, oh my gosh, that could be back. I'm old. Back in my day, when you seen that, a lot of times the guy's career were over.
Yeah.
It was over. I mean, you just couldn't come back from all that. Well, nowadays it's different. And if there wasn't nerve damage, and it appears there hasn't been, because Tomlin says he'll be ready for camp to get some work. That's a great sign. That doesn't mean he's going to start the season. He might be on the pup list to start the year, but at least he might only miss 4 to 6 games. And that would be awesome.
That would be awesome. Who comes off the field?
Well, they're going to get Landon Roberts out there as much as possible
Yeah.
for his leadership, especially. But let's be honest, Landon Roberts had his best year last year in coverage. I've watched him since he come out, and I've always been a Landon Roberts fan. 2 years ago, I wrote an article when Brian Flores come to Pittsburgh that he needed to bring Landon Roberts with him because he was Brian Flores type linebacker.
Mhm.
But he's always been a little weaker in coverage. Well, last year, after Holcomb went down, Alexander went down, and they're forcing Mark Robertson out there and Micah Walker. Um, Landon Roberts was their best cover guy. I
Mhm.
mean, he really was. So I'm excited to have Landon Roberts back, but he's a better backup. And if you could get, I think Peyton Wilson's going to start at some point this year.
Mhm.
I just think he's that talented.
I do too.
But Holcomb he's a great green dot, as we know, and he's going to play great next to Patrick Queen.
I think so too. If he's coming back though, Holcomb, week 6, 7, or somewhere around there, and Peyton Wilson's already starting and showing. How do you think Steelers handle it then?
I think though, if by that point, the goal is, and for me, would be to get Queen and Wilson as the starters.
Mhm.
Nobody in the NFL will match your speed, your athleticism, and your intensity in inside linebacker. The closest may be the 49ers.
Mhm.
You're not going to match that in the AFC. So, and what better backups would you have in the NFL than Holcomb and Roberts?
Yeah, I agree. I
So to
agree.
me, every guy is going to get an opportunity. They're going to get a chance to play and make plays and be a part of this. I'm not as concerned about who's starting. I just want to see the best combination because I believe that the middle of the field has been a weakness since Shazier was injured. They've picked on our middle linebackers like constantly. They would find Roberts playing, and that's where the ball was going. You can call it the play before it happened. Well, with Queen and Wilson, that won't be a problem anymore.
Yeah, the only person that couldn't figure that out was Lamar Jackson.
Exactly.
Yeah. He's the only one who threw, oh boy, a pick six, man. That was crazy.
Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry made Robert Spillane.
Yeah, you're
Now,
right.
I'm happy for Spillane. He had a great year last year with the Raiders.
Mhm.
And you got to love that kid. I mean, you do. He's just a hard-nosed, overachiever. But he still can't cover nobody.
No, he can't. I was shocked when he took that pick to the house. Like I couldn't believe it was him, and I was like, man, maybe we got a guy. Maybe he's a Brian Urlacher in disguise or something.
Yeah.
And then he got torched like every
Oh,
other
man.
game.
But you see, like Urlacher, his size
Mhm.
and everything, and then the dude ran like a 4.4. I mean, Urlacher was something. He was special. He would have been even more of a legend if Jerome Bettis hadn't planted him in the end zone.
That's what everybody remember. Well, everybody I know that's a Steeler fan remember him
Oh yeah,
for.
oh yeah.
It was a good day, man. That was the start, right? That was the start of
Yep.
the winning
They had to
streak.
have it. Yep.
They had to have it. Ended up in a ring, man. I remember that. I was very young. Well, not very young. I think it's just 19 when that happened. Jeez, long time ago.
I was a little
Long
older
time
than
ago.
that.
It was a good time, man.
It
was a
was
good time.
good. It was a great time. Yes.
I thought we were going to have another 4 rings, with Ben and everything, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's not the way the ball bounces.
It's hard to win Super Bowls.
It sure is.
It really is. It really is hard.
It is. And I think this year, I think the window starts to open. I'm not going to say that the window is like wide open, that it's Super Bowl or bust or anything like that. But I think that if the quarterback play can be better than what Mason Rudolph was in the last 4 games last year, I think this team has a real opportunity to be something dangerous, or even if Russ or Justin can play to the same caliber of, 2 touchdowns through the air or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
1 interception in 4 games, something to that nature, like what Mason had. I think that this team would be very dangerous because I think that it's to the point where if this offensive line can gel, and we get that one more wide receiver, I think there's just that quarterback away. And I think maybe Russ or Justin could be that. It's going to be exciting training camp. How big or how real of a quarterback competition do you think there's going to be? How many first team reps does Justin Fields get?
Everybody knows I want Fields to work out.
Mhm.
I really do because of his talent, his age. I just think he could be a possible franchise guy. But I think this year, where they're changing his delivery, they're changing his footwork, they're changing how he takes the snap, they're trying to take the pressure off him where he can grow mentally and learn to go through his progressions in his reads. I don't think he needs to be forced in there. I think he needs to be eased in. A few packages a game in the, specific timing, the circumstances. Let Russell carry this right now. He's the veteran. He's the experienced guy. Let him be that game manager and bring Fields along slowly. So I don't expect there to be a real true quarterback competition unless he just goes lights out and just has like an unbelievable camp and preseason to where he puts massive pressure on Wilson, and Wilson doesn't handle it well. But in a perfect world, this year Wilson's starting, Fields is contributing and improving.
I agree. I don't think there's going to be much of a quarterback, challenge there. I don't think he's going to get very many first team reps. I do see him getting some, probably because of Russell's age, and you're not going to want him throwing every single day,
Yeah,
things like that. So I do see Justin getting some first team reps, but I'm not seeing any competition anytime soon. I think you're absolutely right. They are changing a lot of things that Justin Fields has done or is doing or has done in the past. And I think they're going to try to develop him into a potential possible future starter for the Steelers if everything goes well. But yeah, that's not a situation to rush. I think that regardless of anything, we have to give, Russell Wilson, his chance.
exactly. And Fields has already been rushed.
Yeah.
I mean, he had very limited experience in college. He had that one big year, and then he's cast into the role of being a savior for the Bears, a team notorious for being terrible at developing quarterbacks. He needs this fresh start.
Yeah, I agree. TD says, how many 3 tight end sets are we going to see? And if it's a low high, how big is the wide receiver cost worth?
So that's one of the reasons I don't want to see him
A
overpay.
lot.
I just don't want to see him overpay because I think you've got Fryermuth who can work out of the slot. He can work off the line. Darnell Washington was not utilized at all last year, and he is a walking mismatch. And the man is that big with that good hands that can move like that, has to be some sort of threat. And then I'm high on a guy like Connor Hayward. Is being, he's made some big third down plays for the Steelers in limited opportunities. So, and the fact that they're going to use Harrison Warren more and get them out in space. So, I didn't even take it into account whoever is going to be the wide receiver too. They all got different skill sets.
Mm-hmm.
There's a variety you can use depending on matchups. So obviously I'm not one of these people that's sweating the wide receiver team.
Yeah, and like I said, for me, I think the longer it's gone, especially since the draft or whatever, I thought the likelihood of them going and pulling the trigger on a receiver for big money is probably less likely. I've gotten to get to know Arthur Smith's offense a little bit better, watching some of the games he's been or coached with Tennessee and with as a head coach with the Atlanta Falcons. And you're right. I mean, the wide receiver too really isn't somebody that is highlighted very much. The tight ends are, the running backs out of the backfield are. So yeah, I mean, I think wide receiver 2 or who at least comes in as far as number 2 in receptions probably isn't going to be a wide receiver.
No, I agree totally.
Mhm.
Usually in Arthur Smith's offense, it's the wide receiver 1 gets the majority of targets, and then it's a tight end.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you want a underrated fantasy option at tight end, Pat Fryermuth, baby.
Yep, you know it. And Dennis says, now that we have signed Cam Sutton, what's the outlook for Beanie Bishop? What do you think?
I think it's even better for Beanie. Because again, I think Cam Sutton will be a great source of knowledge, a mentor for Beanie Bishop. I think that Beanie already has the intensity, the speed, the athleticism. I've said along, I think he's making the roster. Mm-hmm. Even as an undrafted guy, I thought when they picked him up, I said he's going to make this roster. And Cam Sutton coming in, Tomlin looks at Sutton as what does he like to call it? Swiss Army knife?
Yeah.
Yeah, he knows he can use Sutton like we talked earlier in all these different positions. And it'll take a little bit of pressure off Bishop to maybe perform right out of the gate. And I think it is only going to help him, especially during training camp, and make him a better player.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Steelers are going to need to develop somebody else in the cornerback position. Cam Sutton is signed for a year. He's got some, he's probably going to be suspended for some part of the season. So the Steelers are going to have to find somebody to fill in that position until then. So Beanie Bishop can go in there and do what he's supposed to do. Maybe he can keep that position away. So let's see. I think we'll get one more of these before we call it. I know Big Bronco's in here. He's not too convinced about Russell Wilson's ability there. I think that when it comes to Russell Wilson, also in Denver, a big part of why it wasn't successful, I think, was whose quarterback or his head coach was his first year, and then transitioning to Sean Payton, who really didn't want him around.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's really fair to judge, but we'll see how he does. I mean, I think that Justin Fields is more than capable of starting. If he can get some things down correctly. And I mean, he showed some improvement last year at the end of the season. So if Russ, doesn't do what he's supposed to do, I think there's going to be a lot of pressure behind him.
I think it's incredible how head coaches don't. A lot of times they don't take up with the quarterback they inherit.
Yeah,
they want their guy. They want a guy that fits their mindset, what their image is. If for that position, how they want it to be managed and operated, and we're starting to see it. I'll be honest, almost all of Colbert's guys is gone. Khan is just picking them off one by one, and he's building this team in his image, so to speak, and what he wants, and him and Andy Weidel. And I think that Sean Payton never really wanted Russell Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he's going to like what he's got this year either. But he'll get a guy. I think he'll hang around long enough to get a guy that he wants. But sometimes you look back and you're like, did the quarterback make the coach? Or was it equal opportunity? Because We've seen Belichick without Brady before and after, and it ain't the same guy. He don't coach the same without a Tom Brady. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I think that, Sean Payton, he's like, well, I want you to beat Drew Brees. And Russell Wilson's like, hey, I'm Russell Wilson. So, you can only be who you are. But, I do think that part of the problem was the Denver scheme. His relationship with the head coach, which has to be there. That head coach quarterback relationship has to be there. And it wasn't. And Wilson, and he definitely struggled. But I'm not going to judge what he has left based on what he did with the Broncos, even though I would have still took 26-8 last year. I would have.
Yeah. I would have too. And I know that, the first coach, Nathaniel Hackett, that was, I wouldn't say that was the coach that wanted Russell Wilson either. I think the hope was that Denver was going to somehow find their way to get Aaron Rodgers at the time when Hackett was acquired. I think that was the whole reason he was acquired by the Denver Broncos, was to lure Aaron Rodgers away from the Green Bay Packers. It didn't work out. Now, like I said, the Steeler fans, we are dedicated. We will let you know if we don't like the quarterback play. It will be loud and clear. Like, if there's something going on, you can look at a couple of games last year and listen to the crowd about their unpleasure feelings for a certain offensive coordinator. It was loud and clear. We won't hide it for very long.
Oh no. Well, you think about last year, Canada got it, Pickett got it, Trubisky got it. I mean, if you're a coach of any sort, or a quarterback, or one of the guys that has the mic in his face a lot after the game, the fans definitely notice you, and they'll let you have it.
Yeah.
Not Philly bad. The Steelers fans ain't that bad, but it got pretty ugly last year.
Yeah, they'll be very vocal. They'll let you know we'll let you know how we feel. That's for sure. Well, guys, I appreciate everybody being out here and tuning in with us. Please hit that like and subscribe button and ring that notification bell if you haven't done so. Shannon, you have any final words?
No, I just thank everybody for showing up. I think we had a great discussion. So many great comments and questions, and There was a couple I missed, but hopefully we can get them on a future podcast. But everybody's really invested. Everybody's excited, and I am too. And I want to keep it that way. And I'm just thanking everybody for being here.
Me too. Thank you guys. We wouldn't be here without y'all. We'll see you guys next time. I think Shannon's going to be on Wednesday on the Pump Your Brakes.
Yep.
So make sure you check him out there. So until next time, guys, Shannon, take us out.